Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I wanted to talk about what's the deal with Rainbow Six Siege. It seems like a lot of people are fairly hesitant about putting down $60 for a multiplayer game, and I don't blame them. And so what I wanted to do today is talk about what this game does well, what are some of its weaknesses, and where it could use some improvements, but also why I am thoroughly addicted to this game right now. And so the first worry that I hear a lot is that there just simply isn't going to be enough content in this game. $60 is a lot for a multiplayer first-person shooter, and so there just needs to be an insane amount of content to justify that price tag. You need to know going into this that there are only 3 game modes, and they all revolve around offense and defense. They're practically identical with a few twists here and there, so there's only 3 of them, and there are only 10 maps. The first time I learned about this, I will fully admit that I was very skeptical that there was going to be enough content. Yes, there is the single player component, the terrorist hunt, but that's more of a tacked on version. I mean, this all revolves around the multiplayer, and only 10 maps with 3 game modes seems a little lackluster. When you start to play the game though, you realize this does have an insane amount of replayability. Even though there are 10 maps, each map plays out completely differently depending on where the objective is located. If the bomb is in the basement, it is going to play out completely differently for both offense and defense. Both sides are going to have a different play style than if it was on the third story. The third story literally could be its own map, the way that this game plays out. And so while yes, there are only 10, because there is this variety and because the bomb or whatever the objective can bounce around, the maps don't get stale because it's not the same thing over and over and over again. You really have to mix up the way that you play, and every time that you attack a different position, it plays out differently. Not only that, and on top of this, there's the insane amount of destruction. Not every wall is fully destructible. You do need to know that. They've balanced it out so that it's not complete mayhem, but because of this destructibility, it changes the way that you approach these objectives. Some rounds are going to have people that blow through the wall. Other times, they're going to shoot you through the ceiling or drop down from up above. There's going to be other situations where they don't even really rely on the destruction, and they just go through all of the doorways. It's on top of this destruction, alongside the fact that the objective changes and can move around the maps, where I feel that this adds to that replayability. And while I know that people are still going to be pretty reluctant to pick it up because at its core, bare bones, I mean 10 maps and 3 game modes doesn't really sound all that impressive, because of the way that this game is designed, I feel like there is a lot of content. I've only played for 9 hours in the base game, and so maybe in like 10 hours or 20 hours, it's going to become more repetitive. But the fact that I put like 50 or 60 hours into the betas when we only had access to a couple of maps, I really do feel like there is a lot of content here to enjoy. One problem that you need to know about though, because it is a little worrisome, is that the netcode is not flawless. I don't know what the cause of this is. It might just be server related and they're going to be able to solve this in the next couple of days. But there are going to be situations where you die instantly and you shouldn't have felt like you died instantly. There's been firefights where the enemy, clearly on his screen when you watch the kill cam, he put like 4 or 5 bullets into you, but on the receiving end, when you were actually dying, it just felt like you died out of nowhere. That does happen on occasion. There's going to be other situations where you see someone, you're around the corner ducking behind cover, and a half a second later, once you're in the safety of cover behind a gigantic barrier, you die out of nowhere. It does not happen all the time, and sometimes you don't even notice it, but it is present. And so if they want to continue to push this competitive aspect of the game, and I hope that they do because I adore it right now, they need to ensure that the netcode is flawless. It's nowhere near as bad as the launch of Battlefield 4. I know a lot of you guys have a Battlefield background, and as soon as you hear, wonky netcode, you probably are freaking out and having flashbacks. I want to make it clear that it's nowhere near as bad as that, but I also want you guys to know going into it that there are some issues here. It's not perfect, and hopefully they are aware of it so that they can make some adjustments in the future to tighten that up a bit. One thing I'm happy to report on is that the matchmaking system and the servers themselves seem to be a lot more stable. There were a couple of times, and I can only speak for PC. I don't know what it is on console right now. I haven't had a chance to play the console version, but at least on PC, for the 9 hours that I played, I would queue up really quickly, and in about a couple of seconds, I would be in a round. There were a few occasions where I would join a server and there was severe rubber banding. You guys are seeing it right now, and it was game breaking. I would immediately have to leave it, but over the 6 hours that I was live streaming this game, and then like the 3 hours that I was just playing by myself, this happened maybe 2 or 3 times. And so it looks like Ubisoft really took advantage of the open beta. They were able to tighten up their servers because I know that this was a huge worry for a lot of people. I was very worried about it. I was very worried that there was going to be extensive problems on the server side. And at least so far, I realized that it's not the weekend yet where there's going to be a huge flood of people playing. But right now, the servers are at least in a fairly stable state. So now that we got all that out of the way, what about the combat? The bread and butter of any first-person shooter. Admittedly, the gunplay is pretty standard. If you play Call of Duty or Battlefield, you're gonna feel right at home here. You basically point and click at the enemy, you compensate for some recoil, and the enemy is gonna die. Admittedly, there is a lot of recoil that you're going to have to compensate for, and they also want you to go for headshots. You hit someone in the head with pretty much any weapon. Doesn't seem to matter if it's a pistol or an assault rifle. They're going to die with that one bullet. But other than those discrepancies, this is a very standard first-person shooter, at least when it comes to gunplay. That does not mean that the gameplay itself is standard or average and just copies other first-person shooters. As I mentioned, because of that insane amount of destructibility, because it's 5 versus 5, you only have 1 life, and because you have an operator, I should have mentioned this at the beginning. When you start a round, you pick an operator, which is your class that has a strength and weakness. You need to work with the other players on your team that also have their strengths and weaknesses for their operator to be able to win the day. You combine all of this, and it makes for a very unique experience that you just really cannot find in any other first-person shooter. This is a very unique game. Yes, it borrows other aspects from other video games. A lot of people could draw parallels to Counter-Strike with that whole offense and defense and the 1 life. You could also draw parallels to Battlefield or Call of Duty with the gunplay and the destructibility, but you put all of these things together, it just works. It just works. It's incredibly addicting. And while of course there still are those frustrating moments when you die around a corner because of the netcode, you can almost forgive it because of how much fun you're having. Or at least for me. I'm only one guy, this is only my 2 cents, but I just play round after round telling myself, okay, we're only gonna do 1 more, and then 3 hours go by because I am having so much fun. As for weapon and class balance, it really is too early to tell at this point. I will say, though, that I've never had a situation where I thought to myself, man, that's overpowered. Wow, that class is completely busted. Because for the most part, if you're observant to your surroundings, or you're good enough and skillful enough, or if you're just working with your teammates, which is essential, you should be able to overcome pretty much every class that you come against or every situation. But overall, while this is not going to be for everyone out there, this is a slow-paced tactical first-person shooter, and honestly, I recommend that you watch a couple of live streams before you pick it up, because you need to know that is slower paced, understand what you're getting yourself into. If this is up your alley, I recommend that you give it a try. I am worried about the netcode. It's not terrible. It's nowhere near as bad as the launch of Battlefield 4, but I want to make you guys aware that it is present. And so I'm looking at you, Ubisoft. Fix this, make sure it's flawless, because you have, in my opinion, an amazing game on your hand. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's review of Rainbow Six Siege. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts on this. I'm only playing on PC. Let me know what it is like on console. Are you having fun? Are you disappointed? Let me know down below and give me your reasons why. But yep, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.